Those of you who are loyal Shaman mains will know that Shaman has a busted skill 2 that lets you lower the defense of enemies by 50%. That is halving an enemy's defense. By 2000 defense, it goes all the way down to 1000 defense, and if it's 1000 defense, that goes to 500 defense. It allows your operators who have maybe very low attack, but yet you want them to deal so much damage because you know they can. People like Exia, your snipers, some of your guards. If you have a Shaman along with them, it's a very nice pairing. But what if I tell you that there's an operator who has that sort of defense minusing ability all in her kit? That unit is Irene. In today's operator showcase, I'm going to show you how her talent that writes that physical damage has a 50% chance to ignore 50% defense, with that chance increased to 100% against aerial units, how this very talent makes Irene one of the most busted 6-star that you should be building in your account. Do note that when it comes to Irene, you don't usually use Irene skill 1 and you don't really use Irene skill 2 as well. So in this showcase, most of it will just be focused on her skill 3. Let's get the stages started. Let's first read Irene's skill 3 together. Irene's skill 3 says that it deals 300% attack as physical damage to all nearby ground enemies. So everyone within this range will get that 300% attack, which is nearly 3000 damage as you see on top, disregarding an enemy's defense. Then, it causes all of them, no matter their weight, to levitate for 4 seconds. If an enemy is too heavy, they will only levitate for 2 seconds. Then, bombard everyone for 12 times. Now these 12 times, she'll select a certain target. So if a target is right in front of Irene, what happens is that hit will deal 250% attack as physical damage to all nearby enemies in that area around the selected target. So for example, if there is a target in front of Irene, and that's the first hit of the 12, everyone around that will get the damage. But if there's also targets behind, they won't receive that 250% attack. Then Irene will go about randomly selecting who the next person will be again and bombard. So one of the good things, or the things that you should be particular about when using Irene, is you ideally put all the enemies in the same tile so that they maximize their damage. So anyways, we'll see this in use right here. Let me just use Torn Scale. And we're gonna use Irene against this guy. So he has a shield that will pop up that will give him increased defense. So just watch as we use Irene's skill, and doesn't even matter that increased defense. We're able to get rid of it, just like that. So this stage, Stultifera Nevis, is very good when pairing with Irene's second talent, where it reads that her ASPD will increase by 18, and that effect doubles when there are sea monster enemies on the battlefield. So this will refer to events like Arknights, Stultifera Nevis, and even IS3 that you might be playing. Irene is definitely the star of the show for any of these types of stages. And if you remember her first talent, it reads that she's able to ignore 50% defense for half the time. But if the enemies are flying up in the air, that chance, by the way, increases to 100% guaranteed defense down, which is why it's very good to use it with skill 3, where the enemies are always in the air for those 4 seconds. So we will let the stage run, let Irene charge up her skill again. I do not really want to use Irene's skill too early when fighting against this defense increasing guy, because at least when his defense is still low, then we use Irene's normal attack. Irene's normal attack lets her deal damage twice. That's the beautiful ability of a Sword Master. So anyways, I'll use Irene's skill now. Look at her deal damage against all of those guys. I'll clean up the floor, and yeah, let all the subsequent enemies roll in. I'm using an ability where it increases their block. That's a Stultifera Nevis thing. So Irene is still able to hold on to that many enemies right now. And oh, that's a big damage. With a single click of Irene's skill, let's eliminate 2 at once. Woohoo! So good to look at. Let's clean the floor, and we have like a final wave that's going on right now. Pretty scary to see. And we will see how that single click use of Irene is able to deal with all of them. So in any case, this first guy is coming in. Alright, there's still quite a bit more trailing on behind. Okay, and right about here, when there's so many enemies, I will just use Irene's skill to levitate them all. And woohoo! A humongous amount of damage. Beautiful stuff from Irene. Now, in a lot of stages, you definitely need to consider the way that you place your operators, like what direction they face and what lanes they're blocking. So for example, in this stage, I can do what most players usually do. You see 2 lanes, you place 1 operator for each lane. So I can drop Irene here just like this, right? And, well, Irene can charge a skill, and I can just place Saria over there as well. But you notice how Irene isn't really helping Thorn's lane all that much with the way that I'm doing things. She has a range like this as well, and if any enemies were to snap on top of Saria, then definitely Irene won't be able to assist all that much. Well, I could do a thing where maybe I place Saria here instead, even further back, so that she holds on to any enemies that leaks past Thorns. But still, it's not that great. So you can consider a different placement like this. So as you see in this formation, now I've placed Thorns in a way whereby, look at his extended range, he's helping both his own lane and the right lane. And for someone like Irene, I don't face her forward, I face her to the left. Because when there are no enemies in her range, then she's able to charge her skill so that that offensive recovery goes up and she's able to prepare her skill for when you need it. So Saria sits right behind, she's not dealing any damage, she's just the person who's going to be able to heal. Now let's use her skill to go against the event mechanics. So for example, this guy over here, the enemy above Irene, has the ability to dodge physical attacks. But Irene's ability Levitate is like a stun. So that actually removes some of the special traits that enemies have. So if I just turn on this skill, notice that they just get wiped out very easily. That is thanks to Irene's skill tree in play. And again, Irene's skill tree has humongous damage. So we're going to use that to deal with the big boy that's on the left as well. So he's starting to just roll in. We'll give him some time. Alright, he's smacking. His attack increases the more he hits. But once he's visible, I'm just going to turn on Irene's skill. And look at that. A single use is able to eliminate him. So do note the way that you place Irene in order to make it optimal so that you can use the skill, charge it up as much as you can, and get rid of everyone in the stage. So I'm going to use Irene's skill tree to counter even more event mechanics. Like for example, over here in this stage, we've got Nova casters in play. And these guys have greatly increased HP, which is scary, but what I can do is to use Irene's skill tree to stop them from casting their special ability. So for this guy, he's going to die very quickly, so I'll just leave him alone there. Right, I'm just gonna beat his special ability for once, and then he's gonna start walking into the stairs, and he'll go to Irene. So again, his skill is gonna pop up pretty damn soon if it weren't for Thorns and Lapland being too strong. We'll wait. So for example, at this point here, notice that the special ability is about to be casted. What I can do is just to turn on Irene's skill, and this will stop them from actually being able to cause the explosion. Just as good as that. Irene is still going to need some time to charge a skill. I'm just going to turn on all of their special abilities in order to just hold them in place. Okay, then I'll just turn on Irene's skill in order to just deal the amount of damage that I need onto someone like Viviana. But basically, if there's any enemies that can be stunned in order to stop them from doing something, Irene is the very unit that can help you to deal with such problems. Irene's skill tree is pretty damn good at one-shotting things if you happen to buff her. So for example, in this stage, I'm just going to jack her up with a Arc. So Arc is just going to cast it onto Irene over there. And then I'm going to use Warframe as well. And then let's slow down the Blood Knight and then use Irene's skill. Just like that, I can one-shot the Blood Knight. And notice that he doesn't eat up any of the knives. I've actually just held him in place right over there. So it's a pretty damn good ability to use in order to, go against stage problems like this. While you won't be using Irene's skill 1 all that much, you may end up considering using Irene's skill 2, especially when pairing it with operators who have levitating abilities. So Irene's skill 2 reads that she deals a certain amount of attack as physical damage for up to 6 ground enemies in front. So this is her range, it's very similar to Lapland's skill 2, it's very definitely just like Chen's skill 2. Let me just get rid of this guy with Bagpipe. And she causes the targets with 3 or less weight to levitate for 3 seconds. So for example, over here, you see all the enemies coming in. If I use the skill, this guy levitates, but the shield guard doesn't, because the shield guard is way too heavy. So if let's say you're trying to use this ability with someone like Kani Palat and Chongyue, you could. So you could do a thing whereby, let me just get rid of Bagpipe because she's doing a lot of damage. let's say all of these enemies start coming in here like this, I can just use Irene's skill to levitate them. Okay, she's way too strong. I'll do it again. Levitate them and then just throw them down with Chongyue's skill. Because Chongyue has a skill where it states that all levitating enemies will come flying down and they'll get a big amount of damage. For someone like the shield guard, unfortunately, as you saw, Irene won't be able to actually lift it up. But if let's say you're someone like Honey Palat, I could actually do a bit of a lift, let them be in the air for a few seconds, and then pair it with something like Chongyue's skill. So even though it could be a nice skill to pair with someone like Chongyue, because Chongyue has a skill SP requirement of 10, I think that drops, no, it doesn't drop, I think it stays at 10, even at M3, but Irene has a skill that drops from 10 to 8 if you entry her. You most often will just end up using Irene's skill 3 anyways, because it's a lot stronger of a skill, it's a big AoE damage, it's not just a one-time hit, and people are levitated for a longer period of time, up to 4 seconds. Then at the same time, if let's say you're trying to synergize Irene's skill with other operators as well, in order to make sure that her skill comes up faster, you can use people like Chen, because Chen has an ability that states that all operators with attack, recovery, and defense recovery skills gain SP every 4 seconds. You could pair it with maybe Warfrin, who gives SP per kill if let's say Irene's the only one in range, if not it'll be random. Or you could use Stainless, where you can use his skill 2 in order to feed SP every 3 seconds. Overall, Irene is a very fun operator for you guys to use. A very nice bread and butter skill 3, and the ability to subtract 50% defense onto all the enemies that she attacks, especially when they're in the air. These are all wonderful traits that Irene is able to bring to the table. And at the same time, a beautiful sword master ability of dealing damage twice. You can see even doing very well against small enemies, such as this Urgate or Wraith. I'm not sure which one this is, but I put a block here. You can see it just run past Irene, and Irene is still being still pretty much able to kill it pretty comfortably, just like that. So if you already have an Irene in your account, do consider to build her. Understand that she has a lot of operators that she can synergize with to make her do very well. With one operator over here being someone like Liskam that I didn't show just now. I'm just going to show you guys a showcase of Irene in this stage, where you shall see her battle against all of these bigger units over here. Just going to use her against the bully, and look at that, it's beautiful just how much she's able to do. There's these Wraiths that's just running around, but I can still make them go in a little bit of circles by making them just come back, and then just using Irene's ability to get rid of them all. See? Very nice to use an operator like her. So hopefully I've taught you guys enough about Irene, and with that, I will see you guys in the next operator showcase. Take care, see you guys, bye bye. I'm doing it wrong. Get rid of everyone! Boom! Okay, that's pretty much the stage clear.